Dr. Jazz.
Thanks so much for taking the time. Really
thanks for asking me. I'm a little bit nervous about it, to be honest with you. I haven't done these before, and I know you've interviewed a lot of people, and you've got quite a repertoire of stuff there. By the way, congratulations on your Dolphy disc.
Thank you. Yeah, man, that was a challenge, but I loved it.
I bet.
You know, Dolphy is one of my heroes. You know, so it's like.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was something special. Yeah.
Did you ever see him live, or?
I never saw him live. That's a lot. Sorry.
Yeah.
I might jump at a German word now and then, so I want to apologize for that up in front. You know.
Wir können auch Deutsch sprechen. Wir können auch Deutsch sprechen. No,
let's not do that.
No, it's okay. Let's stick with. But no, you know, I've done these talks now, and with so many guys that you played with, and you know, Bob Moses had such nice things to say about you as well. And
yeah, you know, that's true. That's really nice of him.
Yeah, and you know, I played with many guys that you played. I did like many records with Stefano Battaglia and Paulino Dalla Porta and so many other guys. And so looking forward to hear some of your angles about music. And you know, I've been listening to your music for such a long time. So, I will just jump in. I wanted to ask you about your trio with Meinrad and Baars. I listened. There's a lot of footage on YouTube, and
yeah, but it's not that terrific. I think there's a few things on there.
Yeah,
we just did a gig in Berlin last week or a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, really?
A little while ago, which was videoed actually. And so there'll probably be some better stuff eventually showing up. It's up to Meinrad. He's the guy that's somehow running, doing the gigs and everything and organizing the stuff. So I'm assuming that there'll be some better music visually by us out there. Yeah.
How did this one happen? This band, by the way, when did you guys start playing? Because it's such a wonderful, tight unit. You know, the record Thrie Threo Dri. It's incredible. It's really what you guys play and how interconnected you are. When did this story begin?
I think that's our best. I think it's getting better and better between us. That's a good question. I did a gig in Amsterdam with Michael Moore and Achim Kaufman.
Oh yeah! Wow, beautiful.
And yeah, we played together for a while, and we had some gigs together. And they invited me up to do a gig up there. I don't think it was the BIM House, but I don't remember. No. And they also set up something for me with oh man, my memory is terrible. The Misha Mengelberg.
Oh, Misha Mengelberg. Yeah. Oh wow, really? Wow.
And Ab. And I had never met them. We just did we did two sets. I did the first set with them, which we just met on the bandstand essentially.
Oh wow.
And then did a set with Michael and Achim, and I can't remember the name of the bass player at this point. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry for the bass player. He's a great bass player, actually a German guy, short. That's all I remember. A good player. What was his name? Shit, I should have made a list of stuff.
No, come on, it's okay. It's okay.
So that was the first time I met those two guys, which was really a trip in itself, you know. And Ab is so, I mean, he's got his own music happening so completely, this guy. And then I don't know what happened. I don't know how we met. I can't remember that. We did, there was another session, you know, Meinrad has this Angry Rabbit, I think that's what it's called, record company. And he set up some concerts with people who were recording with him, I think. And one of the things that ended up happening was that I played with him and Ab, and we liked it and decided to continue growing. It's an interesting band in so far as, I mean, we never rehearsed, we never, you know, you just get together and play. And so each meeting is interesting in itself, like, because each of the musicians really have their own music and their own logical
personality,
their own logic together. And it's taken a while for me, at any rate, to get to really understand and get involved intimately with their music. But it's getting better and better, I think, and we're getting to understand each other more and more. We don't meet that often, but when we do, it's always exciting and always enjoyable, actually. And yeah, that's about all I can say.
No, it sounds
it's an interesting band, you know.
Yeah, I mean, sound-wise, also, you know, up with clarinet and, you know, his approach, the kind of Dutch approach to improvising.
Right.
And you know, it's really beautiful how you develop the chemistry. And I wanted to ask you this one question, like, how do you, especially you on drums, approach these improv situations when you know, like, how do you decide? Of course, you interact with other players, but as a drummer, because when I listen to you play in this trio or in any other settings, for me, your drum sounds like an orchestra. You know, you have all these sounds and it's going everywhere. How do you approach these free situations in terms of playing and sounds? How do you envision where to go or what to do?
I have I guess you could call it a method. I mean, my approach to music is probably more, I have a very melodic approach to music. I hear melodies on my instrument. To me, my drums are a melodic instrument, and of course they're drums. Drums are always drums. They're always going to sound like drums, and they are drums. So what's in back of it, how that comes through, is sometimes questionable. But so I mean, I hear music, and there's always music happening. If I can, I just hook up to my energy. I follow my energy flow and hear the music of my energy, and I play that. And of course, we're all influenced by each other intimately. I mean, deeper than even the sound.
Yeah, sure.
The power and our presence with each other influences what our energy does. So it's for me, I just hook up to I hear the music in my head, and I start to play it, and I think I'm assuming that the other guys are doing that too. I never really asked them about it, but that's my approach to it, and that's what I do, and I just get locked in. And it starts to run because we start feeding off each other, it's quite simple, actually. You know?
Yeah, no, it is, but it's like, you know, we all improvise, so kind of makes sense. It's logical, but it's just like, you know, what the right choice is. If you ask that sometimes yourself, you know, are you sometimes stuck where to go or not really?
No, I don't really get stuck. I mean, I might land on something for a second, but I'm pretty quickly gone from. I mean, it's constantly moving. So
yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
So I mean, if you're playing 30-second notes, or whole notes, that note moves to the next note eventually, I just stay locked into it. It's the way I work. So you know.
Did you have this approach? Did you have this approach already in the beginning, like let's say early '60s, or when you started with drums, like this, like kind of melodic? Did you have this idea already back then? Yeah,
I think so. I come from a pretty musical family. My father was, he studied to be a classical singer, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
But he never made it because his father died, and he was the older of the three brothers and had to take over the family business, which was the retail meat business. So he could never realize that. But there was always music in the house. And I was brought up, I was born in 1942. So that means that the music that was coming in our house, the pop music at that time was like big band.
Yeah, man.
I was fortunate to have come up through the standards when standards were really happening. So that's really inside me, and I came up through that. And everyone was singing in the house. My mother was singing, my father was singing, everyone was singing, and then to me that was music. And I guess that stayed
with you.
That stayed as an important point of view, for me. And I really believe in music. It's one of the few things I really believe in. That's always there, So, the truth comes and goes, but music is always there somehow. You have to be careful.
True.
That you don't get too caught up in your own cliches, I suppose, or your body habits. That's tricky. Just keeping the mind and the body in the right positioning, and as long as that's working, and I can relax, then I'm okay, and I just sing my way through the gig essentially.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Like speaking of drums, let's say you said you listened to the big bands and jazz. When was that moment? You remember that you said I want to start playing jazz? How did that happen for you?
I believe it was Sing, Sing, Sing. The Benny Goodman recording from his Carnegie Hall concert. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I think Gene Krupa was the guy that I thought to myself, oh man, I want to do that, because he had this, he had the lowest floor time it was like, and had that thing happening, man. He really had it moving. And the funny thing is, I didn't become a big band drummer. I never realized that. I was essentially a small group drummer. I tried it a couple times, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But it's always fun to play big band. But I'm not. I wasn't a very good reader, So you need that, and plus I kind of. Although I think I'm probably a better reader than my confidence in me talks about.
Definitely.
Still, I get when the paper is in front of me, it's like, oh, there it is, and then you tend to switch over into another area, and the problem that I have with that is that if I get too involved with the music, the reading tends to take center place.
Sure. Yeah, but
Gene Krupa was the guy, and then I think Ellington. There was I remember, or Louis Bellson. There was a jazz show when I was a kid on late night radio that I was listening to, and there was a tune called "The Hawk Talks," and it was a Louis Bellson arrangement. Or his tune, he wrote it. He was a good writer, this guy, actually. And that impressed me also. I think it was his band, but I'm not sure. But then Duke and especially Duke, I think, and Basie to a certain degree. That was the first concert I went to. My aunt took me to a concert in Boston. We had a club there called Storyville. And the Basie band was in town. And I was like maybe 12 or 11, 12 or something like that. My aunt said, I got to take him to see the Basie band. And we went in and sat down, and our table was really close to the bandstand. And I'll never forget the beginning. They were coming onto the bandstand, and the rhythm sections already started to, lead. I always think of Basie. I think of the guitar player Green. What was his name?
Freddie Green.
Freddie Green. Because
he was incredible.
Like
rhythm, incredible.
Just
incredible.
Right there. And they started playing, and the cast was still getting on the bandstand. I thought to myself, geez, these guys are kind of sloppy. I mean, they're not really ready. They're getting. And Basie wasn't a very demonstrative leader. He wasn't one of these cats that he did this shit. He would sit at the piano and just go boink.
Yeah.
And so when everyone gets settled and the cats get finished saying, what chart was it? 300 and something. And they're talking back and forth. And when everyone got settled and they went through a couple of courses of blues in front, and Basie just went like this. And they went, bah! And I went, whoa! And I said, that was impressive to me. And also at the end of the two things I remember about that gig was at the end of the gig, I was at the garderobe getting my coat with my aunt, and there was a beautiful chick there, and she was asking. There were a couple of cats in the band, and she was asking them, "Where is the drummer?" And I thought to myself, and she said, "He is the best." And I was going to think she's going to say something nice about it. He said, "He is the best stick twirler I've ever seen." That was Sonny Payne, right? Sonny could do that shit. He was doing all this twirling and stuff. And she said, "He's the best stick twirler." And I thought to myself, beauty is only skin deep, and that left an impression on me. So I remember that. That was my first live gig. But I never became a big drummer. Yeah.
But what about small groups that impressed you in the beginning? You remember? Like Parker or those guys? Like,
I think actually the first group I heard that I thought brought about the question was the Dave Brubeck Quartet.
Okay.
And they did. There was they did a live concert at a college called Oberlin, I think. And I can't remember the name of the album, but I had no understanding of music at all. I didn't know anything about form or anything about anything. I just was, jazz, let's put it that way. Just listening, And they played a blues called the Balcony Rock. I was listening to the blues, and suddenly and Desmond took the first solo, I remember that. Joe Dodge was the drummer. Again, I don't remember the bass player, but Joe Dodge was the name of the drummer. It's a really old album. And after Paul stopped and Brubeck started immediately, I thought to myself, how did they know that? How did they know when to, how did they know when to come in? How did they know how to do that? And that mystery, that's the thing that interested me in jazz, was the mystery of it. What's going on there? What are they talking about? How does that, So that album, that first time, that was it,
Well, yeah, but it's true what you say. Yeah, it's even in free improvisation. That's for someone who's an outsider, not a musician or a kid. I think that's what you said. People would be like, how did they, know to meet there, or how does this happen? I'm always also intrigued by that.
I'm still intrigued by that. Yes, especially in the free situation.
Yeah,
structured things, it's clear somehow. But the free thing, that's something special. You can get that happening. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I've read that you were then a student of Alan Dawson, and I wanted to ask you. He's become one of the legendary mentors and drummers, like so underrated actually. And but how did you hook up with Alan, and what did he do to your playing or your approach then?
How did I hook up with Alan? That's a good question. Well, he was the drum teacher at the Berklee School of Music. I went to Berklee actually. When Berklee was just in a 3-story building in Boston. It was just a private music school, and he was the drum teacher. And I was a terrible student, actually. because every time I sat down at the drums, I just wanted to play them, you know. And he would give me, he had a book that we were working off of, a couple of books. One was Stick Control, which is like kind of like the Bible of the, you know, which is still a great book actually. And another one was, I think something, I can't remember, but it was more reading stuff. And I was just terrible at it. But the what Alan did for me, he was a great drummer and incredible chops and a very good vibraphone player. So he was
really, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, he played really good vibes.
Oh.
And in fact, there's he worked with Jackie Byard quite a bit. Jackie and Booker Irvin, they did some recordings. And in one of those recordings, there's a tune called Alan's Got Rhythm, where Alan is playing vibraphone. I'm not sure who's playing drums.
Oh man, I have to check it out. Okay, well, I have to check it out.
He plays, he was a good vibraphone player. And he had a gig in Cambridge, which is Boston is divided by a river called the Charles River. One side is Boston, the other side is Cambridge. Cambridge is where Harvard is and MIT and stuff like that. And there was a coffee shop there. And they used to have jazz on the weekends. And Alan was the drummer every weekend for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, 3 nights a week.
Wow.
I was always there. And he used to let me sit in. When he would play vibes, I could sit in and play drums. Or on Sunday nights, sometimes he would have to get up early on Monday morning, and I got to play the last set, you know.
Oh,
and so I loved Alan. And what he did for me was to give me confidence. That's the best thing he gave me, which I think is probably the best thing you can give anybody somehow. Yeah. He had enough trust in me to let me come in and sit in when he played vibraphone, for example, or play the last set. And I did that. I was every weekend I was there, and I was lucky enough to meet him again shortly before he died. I went back to Boston, and he had a gig, fortunately, and I got to meet him and thank him for that,
for everything,
for giving me that.
Yeah,
for everything. He was a wonderful man. He was a quality guy. I mean, he was just a good person, very good.
Yeah, I've heard everyone who was his student or who knew him is just talking high praise of him, you know.
He was a great guy.
Yeah. How did then this, because this is like, you know, this connection of Boston and New York, then how did you decide slowly then to gravitate towards New York and this early beginnings in New York? How was that like for you, the first connections, and how did that happen?
I was Ken Carter, great bass player.
Yeah, man, incredible.
Not living in South France, but he was from Boston, and we played together quite a bit in different situations. I think he hooked up with the New York jazz scene, and in the 60s we started just going down there. That's when the Jazz Composers Guild started in the 1960s, and I got the gig with him with the Carla Bley had a quintet with Marion Brown, Michael Mantler, and Kent and myself and Carla.
Oh wow!
And so we did some gigs down there with her, and then eventually, I have a hard time with the past, remembering exactly what happened down there. I was down there twice in New York. The first time, and I'm trying to remember what the situation was, and I really can't.
Yeah, man, go on.
And I went down there, but at any rate, I was
ago,
but I got involved with Roswell Rudd and John Chikai.
Really?
They had this New York art quartet, and this great drummer who's still around, that played with them. Louis Worrell was the bass player. And oh man, I feel terrible about not knowing these cats' names. And he was very special, this cat. He's still around. Do you know who that could be?
Well, not Barry Altschul, right? He's too young.
Not Barry.
He's too
Not
young.
Barry. No, not Barry. Wait a minute. I'll tell you in a minute. I have to look this up. Just
yeah.
wait.
Let's see.
Maybe I'll ask Siri. Maybe she knows. Hey Siri, if she knows this. Who was the drummer with the New York Art Quartet?
Okay, I found this on the web for I Want with the New York Art Quartet. Check it out.
Milford Graves.
Milford, yes.
Milford, yeah.
Milford. Right. He was the original drummer with that band.
Yeah.
And after he left, I got the gig. So I was working with them. Then they had, I mean, we didn't work very much. We had a couple of gigs that they made this Jazz Composers Guild.
Yeah, yeah.
And they rented there was a ballet studio on top of the Village Vanguard. And they rented that out every weekend. Or I don't know if they rented it but they got it.
Yeah.
And different bands would play there every weekend.
Wow.
And and we were one of the bands that got to play there, you know.
Wow.
And I also was fortunate enough not just to play with Roswell and Chicago. They were great. They were fantastic.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And also, but one of the two bass players was Bill Nodlinger, who was an amazing bass player.
Yeah.
And Eddie Gomez was actually in the band for a minute.
Really?
You wouldn't think of Eddie Gomez, yeah.
In that context, yeah.
So change oriented this cat, but he was playing free music at that point.
Wow, man.
And so he was one of the bass players. And also one night I met Albert Eiler.
Really?
He sat in with the band. He just pulled his horn out and started playing. And I thought to myself, holy shit, what is this cat doing, man? What am I supposed to do with this cat? It was like playing with a burning coal, you know, just like, I never heard music like that before. So that was an education for me being in New York. I was really lucky to have been a part. And I also met Bob Moses down there too. I was living, I was living in a house on Eldridge Street. This is down in the Village.
Yeah.
And the people who were living in this house were Joanne and Charles Brackeen Joanne and Charles Brackeen. They were the managers of the house.
Oh, wow, man, so cool.
And I ended up coming to New York. There's another thing, I don't know what happened. I was in a fire and I had as I was living in Boston, there was a fire in the house that I lived in. And I lost everything. I was lucky to get out of that alive, actually. A friend of mine knocked on the door. He had seen smoke and woke me up. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, what's going on? And as I opened the door, my ceiling started blazing because of the air coming in. There was a loft above us. We had a session in there that night, and somehow something got tipped over. And so I lost everything. I lost my drums, I lost all my music, I lost everything. And I was wandering around like I felt like I had to tie rocks to my feet because I didn't have any possessions.
Yeah.
Possessions really nail you on the earth. And when you lose everything all at once, you're just floating. You're just like,
true.
And all of a sudden I was in New York, and I can't remember to this day, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any gigs. I was fortunate enough to have Mike Knott, this great piano player from
He's New Zealand, right? New Zealand. Yeah,
I think New Zealand. Yeah, and he was living at this Elder Street place, and he let me stay with him. And Jim Pepper was living in the building, and a bass player named Chris Hills was living in the building. Larry Coryell was upstairs on the top. The place was packed full of musicians, you know. So, and that was also an interesting situation. But that's where I met Bob Moses, actually.
Yeah,
He used to come in all the time. Yeah.
man. Yeah, I have
Yeah,
a
those were
tour,
the good old days.
tour with Bob in October, so looking forward to
You have a
that.
gig with him.
Yeah, we
Oh,
have a
talk-
tour. Yeah, we have a tour. Me, Arild Andersen on bass, and Bob on drums.
Oh, great.
We have like a 2-week tour in October this year, so I'm so much looking forward if COVID permits this. So.
Are you in Germany?
No, I'm in Slovenia now, but you know, it's like we're playing in.
So the gig, the tour is
the
in
gig,
Slovenia.
sorry.
Where you?
Yeah, we play. I think something in Germany, maybe also. Yeah, and Switzerland, Austria, Italy. It's like 12 gigs or 11 gigs so far. So we play actually in
Great.
Neuburg an der Donau, in Birdland and Bayreuth, some of those places. So
Okay,
it will be fun.
I'll pay
But-
attention.
Oh man, Yeah, we have to hook up one day. I'll drive up to where you live just to improvise.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please. No, but I wanted to ask you this. Was it then through Carla that you met Paul Bley also? Or how did the Paul Bley
I
story
met-
begin?
I met Paul through, okay, this goes back as an introduction to that. I'm just gonna be talking. I mean, if you see me wandering around.
No,
just tell
please.
me.
I love this. So just,
When I was a young guy, I lived in a suburb of Boston called Newton, Massachusetts. And there was a young trumpet player there named Mark Levinson, who became a bass player,
yeah,
who ended up playing with Bley.
Yeah.
For a while. And Mark always wanted to hook me up with Bley. When he was playing with Bley, he wanted to hook me up with him. And it happened. He got a hold of, he was one of these cats that could, he was a young guy that was just kind of brilliant and had no fear about. I mean, he invited Sonny Rollins out to the house. We had a quintet, I think it was a sextet or a quintet, and Kent was in the band also, actually. And he invited Sonny, and that's when Sonny had his Mohegan haircut. Remember that? He was like the Indian haircut he had. And we were rehearsing, and he invited Sonny to come out to the house to listen to the band, which he did.
wow.
And
man.
that was also interesting to me. I remember meeting Sonny for the first time. We were playing, and then Mark's mother came in and said, "Sonny's here." We stopped playing, and we went into the living room, and we got in, opened the door in the living room, and Sonny must have been, he was just standing there. He was a pretty big, good, standing there, and I don't know how many feet he was away from me, but I felt his power just coming through the door. It was like it was a power there that he had, you know, and yeah. So, and he was playing in Boston at that time, which good. I mean, these were one great thing about being in the States and being in Boston at any rate, was bands would come in and play for like 5 nights for, you know, and they would do like, matinees on Sunday afternoon matinees, like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And you could sit in with the bands at that time, you know?
Oh, wow.
And so I'm quite proud of myself that I had the courage to ask Sonny, and I sat in with him at that time. And it was just me and a bass player, Chris Hills was the bass player. And I remember we played Solar.
Oh, wow.
So Sonny didn't talk very much. And I remember when he was playing 8th notes, I was playing 16th notes. And when he was playing 16th notes, I was playing 8th notes. And the bass player was like the Rock of Gibraltar, you know? And I felt like I was on doing this with Sonny, him on one side, one on the other. And after the gig was over, he came over to me, and these are one of my memories. I have some memories. My memory of the past is not really that good, but there are certain things that stick out. And he came over to me and he said, "Keep on playing, and one of these days your music will be accepted." And then he walked away. And I thought to myself, what the hell did that mean? What did he mean by that? And I decided to take it as a positive.
Yeah, sure. Man,
So
that's
so that
incredible.
was good. Yeah.
That's
I
incredible.
never played with him again, but that was a great meeting.
Yeah, just like you remember those sentences. Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
Always.
And so anyway, so we ended up getting together with Bley, with Paul, at Mark's house. Mark's parents lived near New Haven, Connecticut, which is somewhere almost halfway between New York and Boston.
Yeah.
Paul came up from New York, and we got to, and we had a session together. And essentially that was it. And then I ended up going to Los Angeles. I was there twice, but this time I went out, I was chasing a woman actually, and didn't work out, and ended up being stuck in LA. And Paul called me and asked me if I wanted to do a concert at the University of Washington in Seattle with Gary.
Ah, okay. Wow.
And that was Mr. Joy. This was the first album that I made with him, which I didn't realize was going to become an album, by the way.
Yeah.
And so I made enough. He offered me enough money that I was able to get out of Los Angeles. That was my main, and get back to Boston again, because Los Angeles I didn't like it. I don't know if you ever lived in Los Angeles.
No.
It's yeah. Well, it's a geschmack. I mean, it's a taste.
Geschmacksding, yeah. Exactly.
But in comparison with Boston, there's no comparison. There's just,
Sure.
it's just a kind of a desert, I mean, it doesn't have its own water supply. They have to pump the water in. It should be a desert actually, but it's Hollywood, so.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
So I got, yeah.
And then the record, like with the ECM record from 1970, then you just continued playing with Paul, or was that like a working group actually for a time?
No, we did this one gig. Everyone seems to think that I was working with him all the time. I wasn't.
Oh.
I mean, I played with him. I did this one concert, and then that was it basically. And I came over to Europe, and then I did a couple of tours with him in Italy, and we did a couple of tours together. Yeah, which, but that's the only recording we made, and this album with ECM, this was there were just a couple of outtakes that he used, because Pat, most of the albums with him and Peacock and Motion, who I thought were great.
Yeah.
Motion to me was
mine too. One of my favorite drummers of all time. Yeah,
very important for me.
Yeah, such a drummer and composer, actually. I love playing his tunes. Sometimes we do jam sessions and we just take a Paul tune like Iliad or whatever, and it's just like, man, how can you write something so simple yet so powerful? It's just.
He was a great musician. He was one of the great jazz musicians.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And did everything.
Yeah.
Full scope of like straight ahead and totally out. I mean, he was great.
Such a unique style also, he dared to do anything. Just stay who he was, I think. The way I listened to him, he just didn't give a damn. Just like, okay, I'll play this.
Bley told me that if you want to hear a good imitation of a Paul Motion drum solo, you take a set of drums, set them up at the top of some stairs, and push them down.
Oh man!
And I thought, I could imagine that actually.
Oh man!
Because he got rid of all his technique, right? All this technical stuff. He said that has to go to get back to what I'm talking about. So
yeah, that's funny. I wanted to ask you, Bill, how did Alive happen?
Alive?
Yeah, that record.
That was from Mark. That was from Mark Levinson. He started he got into the audio
recording stuff and
record. Yeah, well, he was building amplifiers and preamplifiers and speakers. He was building systems.
Wow, okay.
And so he asked me if I would be interested in doing a solo recording, because he wanted to use it to, the drums are percussively, there's nothing more percussive, right? That really bang,
Sure.
you know, and boom. And he wanted to show people what his system can do.
Yeah.
So he asked me if I would do that, and I said sure. And we went to a church, and I came up with a concept about how to program it somehow.
Yeah, like, yeah.
And he just put two little microphones out here.
That was it? Oh, wow, really? Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't it was just two microphones out here, that was it.
Wow.
And yeah, that recording became that recording, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and soon after that, you decided to go to Europe, and you know, most people, you've been associated to so many European musicians and improvisers. And what was that decision based on? And
when I was working with Roswell, he had a loft in Brooklyn. I think it was in Brooklyn. I'm not sure about this. We rehearsed there a couple of times, and he was working for, and I'm not sure about this. So this is I'm not sure if this is true, but I think it was Alan Lomax, a guy named Alan Lomax, and he was collecting folk music from all over the world. And this is just the beginning of the story. So he was playing, and Roswell's had a gig. He was like notating folk music. He would get recordings and folk music. But that's I remember hearing some of that. But also he played me a recording of the New York Art Quartet with Milford and Lewis. Mm-hmm. Two recordings, one in New York and one they were on tour in Europe. And the one in New York was very intense, very,
sure.
very closed and intense. And the one in Europe was extremely lyrical. And there was a lot of open space to it and very lyrical. And I love lyricism. I love melody and lyrics, lyricism. I love that. And I thought to myself, what's going on over there? Why did it sound like that over there and this over here? If you're influenced by your environment. And I thought to myself, I would like to know what's going on. So that set a bee in my head. And I was married in America and just got a divorce. Wasn't doing very much. I was never very good at selling. I was never a very good salesman of myself. I just didn't do it. And all I saw was commercial music in front of me, and an old friend named Tom Vandergeld, a vibraphone player who I had met in Boston. A lot of Boston, a lot of good people went through Berkeley on their way into the music world. Yeah. And I had met Tom, and we had done some playing together, and he had gone to Salzburg for some reason, because of a woman, I believe. He met a woman. It's normal, right? So
it's all the time. Funny.
That's how cats move around, right?
Exactly.
Moved around. And so he ended up in Salzburg with this woman and wanted to make a band, and gave me a call. And also a very good musician named Roger Janata that no one knows about.
Yeah, the
brilliant
saxophone
player. Played everything from baritone to oboe. I mean, when we went on the road, he had a crate. I mean, we needed a bus to carry his stuff. He had more stuff than the drums, really. And so he said, and I had nothing at that point and thought, yeah, I'll go over and check it out, see how it is for a year. And I had enough money to put myself and my drums on a plane and came over and yeah, ended up staying. Lived in Salzburg for 10 years, met another woman and she took me to Germany.
Ah, that's how this all happened. Okay, interesting. Yeah. And did you discover then this lyricism in Europe? Like if you think about it?
I think I discovered my own, maybe.
Wow, yeah,
I mean,
wow, beautiful. Nicely put.
Not discovered it, but I continued. I mean, because I was fortunate enough to get gigs here. And I was able to play the music that I wanted. I mean, some of the stuff was pretty straight ahead, you know, which I could do. But there was a lot of free stuff. And with Tom's band, it was a very free band.
Patience,
And,
I love this record. That's such a beautiful record.
There's a better record called Outpatience.
Really? Oh man, I have to find it. Okay, I just have patience.
That is, yeah, I don't think it exists anymore. I could send you a copy maybe.
Please,
yeah, that was a better one. This was with on a sister label from ECM, which I can't remember now. But there's a better one actually.
Oh, wow.
So we made 2 albums. That band. Yeah, it was a good band. That was a good band.
Yeah, you made since Europe so many records, and one of my favorites is I talked with Stan Saltzman about that one with Kenny Wheeler, Flutter by Butterfly, and I wanted, you know, Kenny Wheeler is for me one of my top 3 musicians and composers ever. You know,
I agree. Yes.
Ever,
he was amazing.
How was your story with Kenny? How did that begin? And playing with him, I mean that album is so beautiful, the compositions and everything. And
I think when I was living in Austria, I was playing in a trio with a guitar player named Peter O'Mara.
Sure, I love Peter. Sure.
And a bass player named Wayne Darling, who an American bass player who was living outside of Vienna. And O'Mara came over with Dale Barlow was his name, was a tenor player. And he called Wayne and I and asked us if we wanted to play with them.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent us some music and they played good and said, yeah. And so we had a quartet for a while, but then Dale went back to Australia, where Peter's from Australia, I believe. I think it's Australia. And Peter stayed and we continued as a trio. Made a couple of discs together.
That's
and
the
then,
Sundial, right? Sundial Trio. Yeah, okay. Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we thought we all liked Kenny's playing and decided we would invite him to come and play with us. And we sent him some stuff and I guess he liked it and came over and we did a few tours with Kenny.
Really? Oh man, how was that like? Man.
That was great. That was great. He was the most non-trumpet player personality of trumpet players that I mean, because he was so introverted, Kenny. You know, he wasn't one of these like, hey, baby, boom, you know, wasn't that. Kenny was like, well, maybe. I mean, if he wanted you to do something, he would say like, maybe do you think maybe we could look at it like this? Which meant I would like to do it this way, you know. But he was an incredible. He was wonderful. He was great. He was wonderful. So yeah, so we played a couple tours with him, and then Kenny called me and asked me if I would do a tour with the band. And I said absolutely, you know, absolutely. And that's how that happened. Yeah.
It's with Dave. That was then tour actually with Dave on bass.
With Dave and
Stan Saltzman. John Taylor. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
John Taylor. Man, this guy. He was.
Again.
He would play upside down, inside out. He could start a phrase anywhere on any beat. And I mean, sometimes it sounded like he was playing with the beat turned. Could sound like you were playing with the beat turned around. He was He was hard to play with, this guy, but he was great, and I loved him.
amazing.
I'm sorry I didn't get to play more with him. He was great, and Stan was beautiful. That was fun, that tour. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful record. I mean, everybody's song but my own, and the tunes that Kenny wrote for that one, and it's just like
That's a great.
We Salute the Night and some other stuff. Like I love that stuff. That's
The ballad, this butterfly, this ballad is amazing.
talking
Amazing
about
ballad.
lyricism, right? That you know, you mentioned. So
He was the cat, absolutely. He was. His time was so good, and he never played hard time. Almost never did he ever. He never played one of these eighth note. Every
I love
once
that.
in a while, he might play a
I love that.
phrase. But other than that, he was all over the place and just perfect. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
yeah, he's one of my favorites. I mean, you collaborated so much with him, also with Italian musicians, right? With Paulino, then Dalla Porta, and Mick Goodrick. I think you did that one record, or Claudio Fasoli with Kenny. I think that there was Kenny one.
I've never played with Claudio and Kenny. I don't think we never played with Claudio and Kenny. I don't think. I don't remember doing that. We did a tour with Furio de Castri.
Oh, okay.
You know Furio
Yeah, sure.
and Kenny, and also this piano. What's this other piano player? There's another well-known.
Oh, Stefano,
Italian.
Battaglia.
Not Stefano. It wasn't Stefano. It was another cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
He self-taught. He was a self-taught piano player. One of these guys. It's autodidact type of
Okay.
player.
No, shit. I'm also blanking. Yeah.
Brilliant. Really, really good player. What was this cat's name? I should have thought about this and made a list.
Oh no! Come on, everyone will forgive you. Come on. It's incredible. You already, these stories that it's so beautiful to hear this stuff. So beautiful. We'll try to find it.
Yeah, we made one album, but actually not with another bass player, but this piano player was really good.
Wait, let's see.
Wait 1 minute, okay?
Yeah, let's search again.
I'll be right back.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay. Sure. No
Be right
worries.
back.
Sure.
So Franco De Andrea,
Yeah, sure. I know him. Yeah,
Franco.
exactly.
So I did a tour with him and Kenny
Wow.
and Furio. I don't know if we ever was Paulino a bass. I can't remember. It's possible. I love going to Italy, but I haven't been there for quite a while. He's a great bass player, Paulino.
Yeah, Paulino. I played with him. I did like one of my first records with him. Like it was incredible. He's so lyrical. Also, such a player. Yeah.
He's great.
How did
been in for a long time?
How did the connection with Mick Goodrick then also? How did he come in that equation? Like you played also with quite a lot with him.
Because of Claudio. Do you know Claudio?
Yeah, Fasoli. Yeah.
You know him personally?
No. I know. I have his records. I have the Tales record and Throughout Trio, something like that. That one.
He got a hold of Mick. Asked Mick to come down, and that's where I met Mick. Although I knew Mick in Boston also.
Yeah, that's why the connection. Yeah.
From afar, because he was also in Berkeley, Mick, but we never hooked up there. Interestingly enough, I mean, I know a couple of guys in Boston who I probably played with more here. Charlie Mariano, for example.
Oh yeah,
also
yeah.
I played maybe 1 or 2 gigs with him in Boston, but
also
not with Mick, just with Charlie.
No, but didn't you do a record with Charlie and Mick? That's somewhere out, something like that. It's called, yeah.
This guy Carlo Mombelli.
Bombay, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I don't know. We ended up. I don't know. Those things, like marbles.
Yeah. It just happens. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, Bill. Not to take more of your time, I just wanted to ask you, like, about the connection with Tomasz Stanko and that album you guys did, Caoma, with Sigi Finkel and Schuller. how was it like, speaking of trumpet players, the Tomasz experience for you? And that's
he was something special. He was I always thought of Tomasz as, I always think of Roy Eldridge when I think of Tomasz, because he
really?
had that. He had that trumpet sound. He had the trumpet sound that Roy Eldridge had for me. That screaming, he could do that, you know. No, he was something special. I'm trying to remember where I met Tomasz. I played with him a couple of times. There was a quartet with a guy named Flatko Kuchan, who's a tenor player. He's living in Hamburg now. Very good tenor player. Also, did he play? I think he played soprano. I'm not sure exactly. But there was a quartet with him, and yeah. Anyway, that's why I first met Tomasz. He came in and did a couple of gigs with us. Yeah.
Oh wow, beautiful.
Well, he was invited to come and play, so
yeah, sure.
that's part of the. We did an album called Live in Paulo Paulo.
Oh man, I have to find it. Okay, wow, I have to find this one.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And yeah, he was great, Tomasz Stanko.
Yeah.
It was something special.
Yeah, definitely one of those unique personalities. Also, musical composer, also such a player. Yeah. Bill, just to end, not to take more of your time. What are you planning now for the next year? If, let's say, COVID permits, are some new projects or in the making, or?
Not necessarily. I'm still teaching at Würzburg at the Hochschule there at the university.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
So I have that gig, thank you, Lord. You know, and basically playing with Ab and Meinrad, and there's another band that I'm playing with a guy named Jonas Dorn and Robert Lucaccio, a very, very good young bass player. There's some stuff on YouTube.
Okay,
that might be interesting. So that one, and there's a band called Common Ground that I'm playing with Matthias Novak is the name of the bass player. Achim Kaufmann is the piano player, and a great tenor player named Sebastian Gillick.
Oh yeah, sure. He's fantastic.
That quartet is happening. So
okay.
There were these three bands circling around. I just did a gig in Cologne with another band. So it's kind of, my main goal is to stay healthy and keep active and stay on top of it and refine, keep learning and I want to get better, you know.
Oh wow, that's so beautiful to hear from you. I mean, come on, you're going to be 80 this year. That's inspiring to hear. That's beautiful. Really nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's the only thing left to do. What are you going to do?
Cool.
Too late to get a gig doing anything else. They're not going to hire me.
Oh, come on. No, but cool. Thanks so much, Bill, for sharing some of these thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
I appreciate it too.